Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is David Feldman-Makrias, and what I'm going to talk about today is there has to be a way. There has to be a way. So, what do I mean by that? I mean, in digital marketing, when you serve clients, when you're coming up with projects, when you're composing decks, when you're doing presentations, you're always going to run into obstacles, right? And that's going to be anything in life, really. But there has to be a way. And when you demonstrate these key principles of there has to be a way in front of clients, I feel as though you have a much better rapport with them over a long period of time. They view you more as a business owner in a sense, where you take ownership and responsibility, whether or not you actually are the business owner. Um, it demonstrates ownership type of qualities and responsibilities. It'll help nurture the relationship for a long period of time. And just overall for clients, you'll be the person that comes through and thinks of it holistically. So again, what do I mean by there has to be a way? Well, with these obstacles, there just has to be a way to overcome them. So I'm going to give a tangible example about something that happened recently, that is just more of the mundane operational items, but the the principles and the methodology behind it and how we were able to figure it out just like adds so much credibility to the client relationship that you become the problem solver. You become the point person to be able to, they come to you with any type of problem in your expertise. And I'm going to give you a digital marketing example, but this can be utilized for anything with account management, client relationship, anything like that. To be in the position of figuring out their problems is extremely, extremely important. And I want to, it's a very vague topic, right? It's a very vague thing to talk about. Oh, you just have to figure it out. You have to whatever. It really starts with, and even if you know nothing, even if you have very limited experience, you're getting your first clients, you've only been doing whatever service for a week, 2 days, 3 months, what have you. If you adopt this mindset and you adopt these principles of asking these questions internally, that's going to help you overcome any problem that's thrown at you. I can pretty much, it's interesting. I drive to work or I'll log on and I have no idea what's going to get thrown at me. I have certain things that I know that I need to get done throughout the day, but in comes, the little things, that like these little obstacles that people can just get really hung up on, and it could occupy their entire day. But how do we quickly, effectively solve these problems there has to be a way methodology? So with that, I'm going to write some notes here for us. All right, so there has to be a way, right? There has to be a way to figure something out. You want to demonstrate, what am I talking about? You want to demonstrate for client relationships, problem solver mentality and attitude. When there's a problem, they should come to you. That is very much, what the main topic is about, and that's how you earn the trust. If you can solve a couple problems, it's amazing. And they don't necessarily have to be inside your wheelhouse either. Let's say you're going for PPC, or you're doing PPC or services, or you're doing cold email services or whatever, and then they ask you a question about SEO, or they ask you a question that's a little bit outside your wheelhouse. You should be well knowledge and well knowledged enough to be able to, check into that, learn, see what's going on, because at least with digital marketing, the space is evolving so quickly. So problem solver mentality, is the way, but you always have to be constantly learning, right? So even if something is outside your wheelhouse, then be you should be knowledgeable on it enough on the topic enough to talk educatedly about it. If you're not, go learn. You have to go learn. And my best way to learn is to act, by kinesthetics, putting myself in situations where I want to do that project, even if it's for my own brand, my own website, whatever. You have to be constantly learning and constantly progressing. It doesn't really stay stagnant. And you'd be surprised, the more you learn, the more people ask you about that in time, right? Like when I first started, I was really good at PPC, but I didn't know a lot about SEO. So then I had to submerge myself in SEO. But after I grew knowledgeable with that, people would interestingly ask me more questions about SEO that was unprospected, right? So that was a little bit strange. How did people know that I know that? Well, I just knew that I had to learn it. So I know I got some typos in here. Educatedly, it's the exact same thing. Whatever. I thought that is the way to spell educatedly. Whatever. What was my specific example that I came in here to talk about? The main example I wanted to talk about was I had a specific problem, and I wanted to take this problem and then kind of analyze exactly what I did in the mindset that I had to overcome it. So the problem was local SEO, and I'm trying to get Google listings verified for a client. Okay. Now, the client recently did some domain work, meaning they rebranded, which caused a whole slew of other issues, and that's okay. But it did cause a whole slew of other issues and hurdles to get through. So with this, their domain had switched, and Google's funny. Google likes to change the way they verify listings. It's either by phone, sometimes, or by email, sometimes, or by postcard, or by video submission, or all this different stuff. Google likes to mix it up. It's probably for good reason. Maybe that's so like people can't do fake verifications and things of that nature. And Google's always keeping us on our toes, anyways. So the only way to get verified was through an email that needed to be sent to a domain to the at how do I say to a business email with their new domain. Well, the crazy thing is they didn't switch over all the email domains yet, because businesses don't move. It's hard to move as quick when you're on scale. So like they had, first name at the previous domain, whereas now we needed to verify an email with we need to verify an email with a new domain. So like info@newdomain.com versus info@previousdomain.com. I can't give the exact example because whatever. So now they don't have anything set up yet. And I know just based off my interactions that um, they don't have necessarily a marketing person that would be so versed in the technicalities to be able to make the domain, do the domain transfer, do it all correctly, and do it quickly because we need to get these Google listings verified quickly. So now I'm in a constraint of A, I can't do it soon enough, and B, I don't have the manpower with the client to be able to execute that. So what do I do in this instance? Email providers, if you go through an email host, let's break out the problems. So problems. Um, the problems were, the business did not have the personnel to help with this issue. Um, Business did not necessarily have the time to help with this issue, and I'm up against a time constraint of getting the new listings verified before the new locations launch. So now you're like, what am I going to do? And this is important for my business because I manage the listing citations, or I really the listings, but also citations for the business in question as part of local SEO. So not only do I have all these hurdles that I don't expect, but there is revenue for my business on the line as well. So what do we have to do? And I want to make a sub another bullet point and just go principles, you know, kind of crafting this as we go along here, but like principles. You have to be that problem solver mentality, right? And I gave some tangible examples here. You have to have it. So, another principle that I always utilize, and that I'm going to show you in this exact example, is how do we do it for less money? How to do the function necessary for less money or less time required. Time is money, right? It's the famous. That's the famous thing. And you know what? As I think about this, principles. I'm going to say questions to ask internally to yourself. Instead of being a problem solver mentality and attitude, how can I be the problem solver, or how can I demonstrate the problem solver mentality and attitude? And that's one question I always ask. How can I solve the problem? How how can I solve the problem? How can I solve or help solve the problem? Okay. So, and then that's a sub bullet point. How can I demonstrate the problem solver mentality and attitude? That's one, right? Kind of drafting this as we go along. You have to be constantly learning, even if you're not an expert, that's okay. Another question to ask: how to do the function necessary for less money or less time required. Business owners will always value you if you value their time and their money. Really, it's their money first and then their time. Actually, you have to do it both because it really depends. A lot of clients will give you a lot of time a day. They'll love to talk to you, so on and so forth. Um, but they all value the money because that's the name of the game. That's business overall. So, how to do things for less? How to do things for the same function for less? Be as efficient as possible. So when I go through this problem, I'm going to go problem example, local SEO. When I go through this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like in this instance, my mind, without thinking about it, goes through these principles and questions to ask internally for myself. How can I solve or help solve the problem? Well, I need to demonstrate the problem solver mentality and attitude. That's why it came to me. Now, another question I ask is how can I do the function necessary for less money and less time required? Right? And I'm actually going to break this out into two. How can I do it for less money required? And how can we complete the function in the least amount of time required? Another thing I do: how can we complete the function with the most minimal amount of client, how do I say, client time, I guess, effort required? That's another big thing. How can I do this without having them help me through it, right? I could easily go on and go, oh, you know, I'm sorry, I can't verify your listing. I just can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. I don't know what to do, blah, 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 blah. You know, and I need your help. Can you help me get to this person, that person? They don't want to be bothered with that. Nobody really wants to be bothered with that. And that really This showcases the servicer mentality. You need to provide service to people. You know, when I think about providing service, I want to provide like the maximum amount of value for the minimum amount of effort in their eyes. Always. If you can demonstrate not only actual value and perceived value, which I've talked about in a different video, but that's how you really keep clients. Um, it's really, really awesome. Another thing, too, demonstrate um, an expertise or a knowing of where to go for the expertise. Right? These are all mindsets. These are all things that you need to know. This one, they're going to come to you for your expertise. Okay. And I'm talking about digital advertising for now because I'm embedded with websites, SEO, SEM, prospecting, content creation, a whole slew of things. But I don't always know everything, and that's okay. You don't always have to know everything. Know what you know and know what you don't know. Don't be afraid to admit that to clients. Okay. You shouldn't be afraid to admit that to clients. You're not going to know everything. This space is evolving so quickly. Um, it's okay. And I can create more content on that. Um, I can create more content on that exclusively for you guys and how I go about demonstrating that. Um, I just copied that in. Hopefully, this document helps you guys. Okay, so let's go back to the problem in question. So we have some principles here. Questions to ask internally for yourself. There has to be a way through. There's got to be some way we can do it. So here's the constraints, right? The business did not have the personnel to help with the issue. The business did not necessarily have the time to help with the issue. The time constraint of getting the new listings verified before the new locations launch. Okay, so I have to do a lot of stuff in less time with not having as many resources. Plus, impacts my financial livelihood. Right? These are all factors that are happening within this specific example of not being able to get the Google listings verified. Um, impacts my financial livelihood and credibility with the client if I cannot complete the verification. Like, those are all the things I'm up against. And it just happens on the daily so much. It's like, how can we get up? How can we get? If I can't go right through, how can I get around? How can I? How can I go beneath? How can I go above? Can I like tunnel to China and then tunnel back up? You know. Um, so what did I do on this problem? The solution was I knew of in the past. I went off my reference, and I knew of in the past. Um, there is a email provider that is free for one email and can use custom domains, meaning I can set up an I could set up an info at newdomain.com where the listing verification code can be sent. All right, so that's my solution. But does the solution cross all of these or help solve all of these problems? Well, let's look. I have the personnel. I have the personnel that understands how to do this and complete this task. And it took me a while to find that person, right? But I do have the person and the personnel to help me with that task, which is excellent. Um, I don't have to. I don't have to get the business involved, which is excellent. It saves them time. They don't even know. I just tell them, hey, here's the solution. This is what I'm going to do. Just letting you know and being aware. Even though I didn't have to get the business involved, I let them know what I was doing. So they know, okay, this is how long it's going to take. This is what to expect. I love doing that. Meaning, if you're going to do something and you don't really need to tell them about it, or you don't need their help with anything, but they're asking you to do a specific task, just tell them what you're doing. Just tell them what you're doing. I'm going to make that another topic of conversation later because there's different ways to do this. Just tell them what you're doing. It's such a good idea. It's such a good idea to just let clients know what's happening and how you're going to, again, be that person that problem solves. And that's that demonstrating an expertise or knowing where to go for the expertise. So in this situation, the email provider is Zoho, and I've used Zoho in the past because a buddy of mine, we actually, we're on the cheap and we're trying to set up a new business, and we were trying to not pay for email subscriptions. So we went through Zoho, we did research, so on and so forth. A lot of it, if you don't know the solution already, like I knew that solution, I could pull it from my reference bank of experience. But if you don't know the solution, Google it, ask the right question, and Google it. Well, here, let me break it down even better. If you don't know the solution, Google your question. If you still cannot find the solution, ask Google another question. If you still cannot find the solution, I can't even go into more sub bullet points. If you still cannot find the solution, then you need to utilize your resources, i.e., calling Google support, emailing other contacts you've made in the industry, so on and so forth. Giving you guys like the step by step way that my brain goes through each way as far as operations. Um, and actually, since I'm just like scribbling stuff here, I'm going to include this on these sub bullet points here. So the problem example again, local SEO. Does my solution check off all of these boxes? I could set up an info at newdomain.com where the listing verification code can be sent. I have the personnel that understands how to do this and complete the task. Yep. I don't get the business involved, which is great because they don't have time to help me with the issue anyways. I can set this up. I'm saying a lot of I, but it's really my team. Um, oh boy. We we can set this up within half hour. Excellent. And we have access to both the old and new domains to add MX records so that the platform will, or the email provider will be fully set up. In that example, we did some of the domain work, so I knew that I can do something there. I knew that I can add MX records, so then that's the mail exchange record, so that a new platform like Zoho can actually receive emails when someone emails info at newdomain.com. So it impacts my financial livelihood and credibility with the client if I cannot complete the verification. That's not the case because I was able to complete the verification. So I literally solved all these problems, and I did it through a way of referencing other examples that I had. And a lot of it will come from experience, right? But if you don't have the experience or you're looking for the knowledge, you got to utilize search engines, Google, YouTube. Trust me, in this space, just remember this. And I'm going to write that here. I'm going to write it right here. In this space, in whatever you're doing, unless you're like working for Tesla or working for NASA or working for SpaceX, where you're like trying to do something that has never been done before, someone has done this before. Someone has done this before. Someone has had this problem and completed it before. So you know there's an answer. You know that there is always an answer. There is, even with Tesla, even with SpaceX, even with complicated big stuff like that, even though there might not be a direct answer, right? There may not be a direct answer to the problem. Like, I couldn't Google my exact issue and have it solved. But what I'm doing is I'm taking all the little knowledge that either I accumulated over experience or that I knew I could go and find and then piece it together. Hopefully that makes sense. Because people have had similar issues before, right? So, all right, this outline's kind of messy. But that was the solution to the overall task, and I was able to complete the Google verification listings. And here it's funny because I didn't even think about that problem when I started my day, but it just kind of happened. But because of the experience, because of my knowledge, I knew where to go and I knew where to point and I knew how to direct and put everything together to where it happened seamlessly and smoothly, which is huge. You know, you may not have that in the beginning. You may have to go and ask a lot of questions and you have to really fine tune the way you ask the questions, right? So let me go back here. Questions to ask internally to yourself. There has to be a way. Having this mindset, there has to be a way. There has to be a way to figure this out. There has to be a way. And the main mindset is to not get yourself discouraged. Um, is really someone has had this problem. Someone has had this problem and completed it before. You know that there is always an answer. There is a way to solve it. So now you just need to find it. So the questions to ask: how can I solve or help solve the problem? And you have to have an awareness. Do you have the applicability to help solve the problem, or do you need to direct your clients or direct your people to a different resource to help solve the problem? Right? You always want to be that problem solver mentality and attitude. Don't dwell on the problem. You know, don't like, woe is me with the problem. Like, if you can solve it and move on. Questions I always ask myself when I'm determining the solution for the problem: how do I do the function necessary for less money required? How can I complete? Yeah, for less money required. I could have completed this problem example and I could have bought an email provider, but it could have been an extra $30 a month or $50 a month or $100 a month, depending upon what I needed. I didn't necessarily think that that was the answer because it was something that I knew that they were going to migrate their domain to another mail provider eventually. I just needed a quick fix. So it's really understanding the problem too. Um, how do I help solve it? And I'm going to put that at the top too. Make sure you understand the problem fully and the future implications of the problem. That's big too. Um, So, can I help? Uh, can I help? The, how, sorry, I'm like losing it here. How to do the function necessary for less money? Can I do it for a cheap cost? Can we complete the function in the least amount of time required, right? How can we do it quickly? And can the function be completed with the most minimal amount of client effort required? These are the principles. Again, you do want to demonstrate our expertise, and if you don't know the solution, there's a way to find it. But these guys are the main principles here. I'm going to bold this or italicize. No, I'm going to make it a different color for you guys. I'm all about organization to the point where it's like I just spend a bunch of time highlighting and color coding and all the stuff that I don't know isn't necessary because that's how my brain works. So how can I solve or help solve the problem? How to do the functions necessarily for less money? How can we complete the function in the least amount of time required? Need a question mark. And how can we complete the function with the most minimal amount of client effort required? These are things I ask in my brain all the time, pretty much all at the same time when any problem comes up. And if you just keep asking yourself when problems come up, keep asking yourself these four questions and aligning with some of the other things I documented in this there has to be a way example, this will be phenomenal for you in your development. And again, why did I didn't even plan to ask these questions at all. It just kind of happened. But I have that servicer mentality where I want to service to the best of my ability, right? I want to get the best impact for the client possible. Minimum amount of effort on their part, maximum amount of result. And that is where you win. That's why it's so important to have the philosophy and principles of there has to be a way. Hopefully, this content was good for you guys. Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you did not enjoy it, you can roast me on the comments as well. Give me feedback of how I can help, provide good effort or not effort, but provide good value for you guys. And I will definitely do that. Thanks so much, and I'll see you on the next video.